All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. It's approximately 5:33 p.m., and we're calling this regular meeting of the Wake County Board of Education to order. I want to welcome those of you who are watching at home and those of you who are joining us here in person. I want to make sure everyone gets in and gets a seat. No worries, thanks. All right. For those of you that have been here before, you've heard this before, but for those of you who are new, we like to establish our meetings by stating that the Wake County Board of Education meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out the official business of the school system. The public is cordially invited to attend board meetings to observe the board as it conducts its official business. Persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances at an official meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer. Members of the audience should show respect for all speakers and refrain from loud comments and other disruptions. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.17. Again, please show each other respect, especially those that are speaking, that are coming to the meeting to provide public comment. All right, so I look around the table. I note that we have all board members here, and so we have established a quorum. And so what I'd like to do is ask everyone who is able to please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. The first item on our meeting agenda is to establish our meeting agenda. So at this point, what I'd like to do, if board members have reviewed the items on the agenda tonight, is entertain any motion for the approval of the agenda or to amend it for any changes necessary.
So moved.
I'm sorry, just let me recognize Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend our agenda to allow us to approve the HR provisions that were talked about in closed session.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Mahaffey. Again, what this would do is just let us go ahead and adopt the recommendations for HR appointments that came out of closed session, and we would do this immediately after adoption of the agenda? All right. You all have heard the motion. Is there any discussion or debate? If not, all in favor of amendment of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Now we'll need a motion for adoption of the agenda. Ms. Rice, did I hear a motion? All right.
Second.
We had an earlier motion from Ms. Rice for adoption of the now amended agenda, and we have a second from Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler. All in favor of adoption of the meeting agenda, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. So now that we've adopted our meeting agenda, the first item is public comment. So as we move into public comment tonight, I need to remind everyone, speakers commenting on items on the night's agenda will appear before speakers commenting on topics off the agenda. All other speakers will be heard in order of sign-up. One thing we do is that we do give our students priority before other speakers. Only the person speaking at the podium will be able to stand. You may be here with a group, but again, only one of you may come up to the podium and speak. All other attendees that are not speaking, we ask that they remain seated. Concerns related to personnel issues and student matters may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel and grievance policies, and other applicable policies of the school system. If you have a matter that would be otherwise confidential and addressed through one of these methods, we have staff here who can address that with you individually to help you have a resolution to that issue. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education, and they must refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, and members of the general public. Please remain at the podium during your speaking time. Any materials you wish to share can be handed to our board attorney, Mr. Rod Malone, either before your comments or at the conclusion of your comments. And these will be made part of the official record. During public comment, you may speak up to 3 minutes. If you haven't spoken before, let me run you through the process up here. When the green light begins, the green light will begin once you begin speaking. That's the start of your time. Then you can continue to speak. When you see the yellow light appear, and you'll hear the first audible tone, that's just a notice that you have 30 seconds remaining in your time. You don't have to stop then, but then when your speaking time is up, you'll see a red light, and you'll hear another audible tone. At that time, please conclude your comment, because I'm going to call upon the next speaker to come up and speak. When the next speaker will be called to the podium, I'll announce the speaker, and then I'll also announce the speaker who's on deck after, just so you can have a chance to prepare your thoughts and be ready. Again, please respect the 3-minute limit and speak no more than 3 minutes. All right? All right. Well, if we are ready, then we will turn to our list. And again, as I said, we will have our students speaking to us first tonight. Our first speaker, and again, please, if I mispronounce your name, please feel free to correct me. I will not take it personally, and I apologize. I have Ananya Menon. Thank you. After Anand will be Rowan Bilodeau. Good evening.
Good evening. I go to Enloe High School, and Enloe is a space where vastly different ideas, backgrounds, and passions converge. The diverse student body and range of classes offered create new and unexpected friendships that are the foundation of our school and many other public schools' community. We as students have access to countless opportunities regardless of our interests, like the IB program, the MBSA program, and ACD, just to name a few. And often we are connected to these organizations by school because we were unaware of them before having this opportunity. But there's a huge problem with our school's funding. The teachers and the bus drivers are not paid competitive salaries, and the essence of our schools is with the people who create our learning environment. The lack of effective bus routes should not be a limiting factor of who is able to attend our school, and the lack of competitive wages should not make it more difficult for teachers to continue fostering an interest and passion for learning. In my own experience, teachers have bridged the gap between my least favorite subject and my most favorite class. Also, many of the buildings at different schools are less than ideal because of issues with funding. Since middle school, I've heard problems with infrastructure in different schools, which affects the learning experience of all students involved. I've seen issues in certain buildings where there's so much humidity that the walls paint peeled easily, and mold was found throughout the school carpets. There were leaks throughout the school, and the furniture hadn't been replaced since the school was opened more than 50 years earlier, and the air conditioning and heating didn't work properly. This created an uncomfortable environment for the students, and it was not healthy for our learning. Without proper funding from the state for staff and bus driver salaries, the counties are forced to use infrastructure wages to provide competitive funds. Some counties are rural and they cannot afford both infrastructure and competitive salaries. So I support public schools because everyone deserves the opportunity to have a school that creates a safe learning environment, staff that challenges students to grow, and a place to foster a community for all students in which students learn to give back to the community. This is why I believe that public school funding is a huge issue that needs to be addressed. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for listening to me tell my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight will be Rowan Bilodeau, followed by Wilton Moratz.
Good evening, board members. Today I need to address a serious matter of safety and ethics. There are many people in this crowd and on the board that have made a big deal out of school safety, as well as bullying, which is fair because that is a big deal. So big that concerned parents have asked for more SROs, full-body scanners, the whole shebang. Yet I am perplexed. Perplexed that some of these concerned parents are knowingly inviting an extremist hate group into our schools. Perplexed that people concerned about bullying are engaging in doxing, one of the most severe forms of cyberbullying. That is what creates a hostile learning environment, not clothing. Something that has been emphasized to students since elementary school is our digital footprint. The choices we make online live forever. The pain we can cause online lives forever. Students are taught not to post anything personal about themselves or others, not to post anything hateful, not to cyberbully, and not to take and post pictures of someone without their knowledge or consent. So what lesson is being taught to young minds when adults are non-consensually posting pictures of somebody with their private information and tagging a known doxing group? Think of the implications of that. By including the name and location of a school, is that not putting the 1,000 teachers and students and staff in danger? No matter the circumstances, this behavior is wrong and dangerous, not to mention that this is a blatant Title IX violation. Look at my outfit. Fabulous, right? If I wear outfits like this, I get harassed and bullied. I have also frequently had my picture taken and posted on the internet. So I'm scared. What if somebody takes my picture and posts it with my full name, or my address, or where I go to school? What if some concerned parent invites a doxer to my school? What if I get swatted? That's terrifying, and I've done nothing but put on a cute outfit. How can you say that safety and bullying are your biggest concerns when this behavior is inciting violence and bullying? The actions that have been taken by these concerned parents are reprehensible, and it's scary. You claim to want to keep all students safe, but now I'm afraid to even leave my home. How many students and staff have that same fear, seeing as there's an estimated 14 million queer people in the U.S.? What are you going to do about these groups actively, intentionally putting your students and staff in very real danger? Are you going to protect me if I become another target? My life as I know it depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next student speakers tonight. I believe, are from Millbrook High School, and I know they have some special guests with them tonight. I want to recognize our former chair of the Wake County Commission, Mr. Sig Hutchison, and our former peer on the Wake County School Board, who served in many, many roles, our beloved Roxy Cash. Thank you both for coming. All right, so we'll continue on with Wilton Moratz, and followed by Sophie Abbott. Mr. Malone. All right, thank you.
Hello, members of the school board. My name is Wilton Moratz. I'm a junior at Millbrook High School. My reason for being here is that we would like to start both an interest group around cycling and a NICA-sponsored cross-country mountain bike team at Millbrook High School. So here's some reasons why you should support this initiative. So first of all, WCPSS supports Safe Routes to School, which is all about cycling to school and teaching bicycle safety, which is what we would like to do with our interest club and our sponsored team. Another reason is that cycling supports the WCPSS Strategic Plan Priority 2, Student Dispositions and Well-Being, which states, we will prioritize caring for students and staff as individuals and developing and maintaining positive social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health. So some steps we have taken to support the cycling club at Millbrook High School is we have communicated with Principal Brian Saunders, and we have identified a teacher coach willing to be our club advisor, known as RISE. And we have also identified a student president for the club, myself, Wilton Moratz. Here's some ways we support outside WCPSS in relation to NICA cross-country mountain bike team. So first off, NICA is a national organization of 32 state leagues, approximately 1,000 individual teams, and 24,457 registered student athletes nationwide in 2023. NICA is an organization that supports our North Carolina League and underlying teams with insurance for liability during team activities, even though they are very uncommon. We also have other schools, clubs, and NICA teams include East Chapel Hill High School, Durham School of the Arts, Falls Lake Academy, Riverside High School, McDougall Middle School, Carborough High School, and many more. We are supported by a growing cycling community. Those here to support cycling clubs in Wake County Public Schools, please stand. Please allow us to start a cycling interest club and NICA-sponsored cross-country mountain bike team at Millbrook High School. Thank you from the future president of the Millbrook High School Cycling Club, Wilton Moratz.
Thank you, Mr. Moratz. We'll now hear from Sophie Abbott, and then following Sophie, that'll conclude our student speakers, and we'll move to our on-agenda speakers.
Good afternoon, Wake County School Board. My name is Sophie Abbott from Heritage High School, where I am a junior. My primary goal is to introduce a cycling club and a mountain biking club at Millbrook High School, and I will first start by introducing the safety factors. From a National Interscholastic Cycling Association, also known as NICA, they introduced an injury surveillance system based on common high school sports, such as football, soccer, wrestling, ice hockey, and lacrosse. Football was around 13,000 injuries reported, soccer was around 2,200, wrestling with 2,700, ice hockey with 700, and lacrosse with 1,100. The NICA mountain biking injuries reported were less than 1%. So moving on to the benefits of NICA, NICA also provided a survey from the students at the end of the year, like when their season has ended. 97% said they had improved physical fitness, 86% said increased self-confidence, 78% said increased mental health, 89 said increased respect for trails and the surrounding environment. Moving on to just noting the other Wake County Public School System high school clubs. Some of them are motorcycle clubs, race car clubs, aerospace clubs, and skateboarding clubs. 70% of clubs at these high schools are related to a sport, and a third have a car/auto club. So our big ask today is to your support in starting a cycling club at Millbrook High School and to set the precedent for other Wake County schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abbott. Now, that'll conclude the student speakers on our agenda. And again, we give some allowances for some of our students. But please, I want to remind you all of the instructions we gave at the beginning. All attendees that are not speaking are asked to remain seated. Okay? So please follow the instructions, and we'll get through. We've got a long agenda tonight. What I'd like to do now is turn to our on-agenda speakers. Our first speaker tonight is another former county commissioner. I'll call out our good friend. We're going to wait just a minute for some folks to come on through.
I don't want to get run over by the bikers.
I'm glad they've got that insurance. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Burns.
Good evening.
Thank you.
My name is John Burns. I'm a resident of Raleigh, and as you said, Mr. Chairman, a former county commissioner. I signed up to address the budget, and I wanted to do that. I'm a former Wake County commissioner, and my former colleague Sig Hutchinson, who was here tonight, and I had many long budget discussions with you and your predecessors. I know that Ms. Johnson-Hostler and Ms. Mahaffey certainly remember those long conversations from my time on the commission. And I am proud of the work that we did collectively to try to bridge the shortfall left by the General Assembly. I wanted to tell you that I think you've done a very good job on your budget, and I wanted to thank you and your staff for the amount of work that you've had to do to be here and to get to this point. And while we may have differed and could still differ about the amounts of certain things in certain places and certain parts of the ledgers, larger principles and assumptions have come to my mind in recent days, and I wanted to address those. So I wanted to apologize that I have sat at home in recent years and assumed that you had the resources you needed to confront the rising tide of Christian nationalist attempts to take over the education system. I thought you had the necessary security budget needed to staff meetings rendered divisive by people who choose to see perversion everywhere and then project their own darkest thoughts onto the actions of others. I assumed you had sufficient resources to support your teachers when they were unfairly targeted and doxxed by political extremists, when all they are trying to do is connect to today's kids. I didn't think you needed to budget for remedial civics and reading comprehension programs for adults in our community. And finally, I didn't think of the time you and your staff have to spend dealing with the deceptive and disingenuous complaints of an angry and hateful splinter group. So perhaps in your next budget, you should account for those hours and those needs. In the meantime, I just thought you and your teachers should know there are far more like me who silently support them and appreciate how well they have educated our children. As a person with a non-binary child in my extended family, I leave you with the request that you continue to support and defend those children who are in your care. You have our support, and we have your back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. And again, just as a reminder, whether in support or in opposition, please let the speakers continue speaking. so everyone can hear their remarks, okay? Please don't make remarks or sounds or whatever while a speaker is speaking at the podium. All right, our next speaker will be Mike Figueres, and he'll be followed by Janet Peterson.
Figueres. Like
Figueres.
figs?
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Mike Figueres, and I want to thank you for this time for me to speak during public comments. I've spoken here on other occasions, and I'm grateful and will be respectful in this public space, I promise you. It's unsettling and sad that groups are abusing this public comment opportunity at such a critical time. They're just seeing headlines and self-promotion by politicizing this public comment section at board meetings, and I will not take for granted this time and keep it public education centered first. I am a parent organizer for Education Justice Alliance, a dad of 4 beautiful, amazing public school children, and I wanted to talk about the school improvement plan for schools that identify as low-performing schools and earn an overall school performance grade of D or F, and a school growth score of met expected growth or not expected growth, not met expected growth. The legislation states that within 30 days of the initial identification of a school as low-performing by the state board, the superintendent shall submit to the local board of education a preliminary plan for improving both the school performance grade and school growth score, including how the superintendent and other central office administrators will work with the school and monitor the school's progress. In my 25 years working with families in the community, I've always believed in listening to the people who are invested the most. I believe the answers will come from those going actually through things. I mean, who knows their child better and cares more about their future than their parent? As a parent myself, I would like not only to be notified if the school earned a low overall performance grade, but to be given the opportunity to be a part of the process of the creation of this preliminary plan. I believe the parents would have something of value to add. If not, then maybe hear the recommendations given and be able to voice their thoughts to modify the plan. We at EJA, Education Justice Alliance, believe that public schools should be community schools. And we should have a relationship-centered public school system that truly values parents and students as decision makers. We hope you do this as well. I ask you consider my comment, and thank you again for this time.
Thank you, Mr. Figueres. Our next speaker tonight is Janet Peterson. After Ms. Peterson, that'll conclude our on-agenda comments, and then we will move to off-agenda comments, but I will have a comment about that as we go. Thank you. Ms. Peterson, whenever you are ready, feel free to adjust the mic.
I am a Christian, and I do love my country, so I'm not sure what that makes me. I reviewed your agenda, and I'm pleased to see that there were a variety of grant requests by teachers and administrators to support lots of different projects. Some of the grants were obvious in their intent, kitchen equipment that was needed, baseball uniforms. However, there were quite a few that lacked clarity about the intent of the project. For the public to be on board with each initiative, I think more information is going to be needed about the grants, more than just their title and the names of the schools. One of the 8th grade grants that you approved last year was on bullying. Let me tell you that some of the staff and citizens seriously need a refresher course. During the last meeting here at the school board, someone on the board took photos and videos and shared them out to the creators of social media memes and posts and pointed out the names of attendees in the audience. The memes and the videos have been shared out in an attempt to silence and intimidate anyone that would want to come to one of these meetings, speak, address a principal or an administrator. Hey, Superintendent Taylor, I wrote an email to you and Chair Haggerty about this board member using his phone to record attendees, and I got no response from either one of you. The board member emailed me back. He refused to apologize or deny taking pictures, staring at me and mouthing words to me. to be safe when I left. Instead, he accused me of playing the victim card. This isn't the first time he and other board members have attempted to intimidate speakers who oppose them. While I'm at it, one of the candidates that's running for superintendent has assisted in awarding grants through groups like the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. Some of those groups that they have given awards have radical goals and missions. Let me just share a couple, and I ask citizens to do their own research and make their own decisions. Progress NC, a team of communications and digital experts dedicated to building long-term transformative people throughout North Carolina. Their data-driven messaging and communication strategies, etc. Shift NC 2021 received $50,000 for 2 years. According to the web, they're permanently closed now, and their focus was on leading North Carolina to improve adolescent and young adult sex health. How about Planned Parenthood? Let's don't accept any of their grants. There are others like Creed who talk about the systemic transformation of the educational system. In summary, I don't know who created the memes or the videos. I just find it a way of intimidating the public that would be brave enough to come up and speak. It has no place in school. It has no place here on the school board. And I would say as far as grants go, grants can be great things, and I'm all for schools and businesses partnering together, as long as we know where the money's coming from, where it's going, and what it's going to be used for.
All right, thank you.
Proverbs 4.
So that concludes our on-agenda speakers. Now, according to our board policy, we generally allow up to 30 minutes for public comment. When we have comments in excess of 30 minutes, what we do is we have the option of moving on with our business agenda and continuing on with the public comments after the conclusion of that agenda. We started public comment tonight at 5:40. It's 6 o'clock now. What I'd like to do, though, based on the number, is we'll go ahead and try to do 30 more minutes of off-agenda speakers. We will go then to our business agenda, and then at the conclusion of the business agenda, we'll resume our off-agenda public comments. All right? So our first off-agenda public speaker tonight is Margaret Bilodeau, who will be followed by Joseph Deaton.
Hello, Board, Superintendent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm not sure if any of you read the newspaper, but I recently came across an article in the News and Observer that made me ask myself, how can people who claim to care about school safety attempt to dox a teacher simply because they disapprove of that teacher's dress code compliant spirit wear? These same individuals come here and rail against this school board, implying that the school board doesn't truly care about school safety. I'm left wondering, what was the goal here? Inciting violence for potential gotcha moments? Drumming up more free media attention to promote their preferred candidates for superintendent of public instruction and school board? It's clear that this has nothing to do with school safety. This is willfully dangerous nonsense aimed at schools attended by our children. As a parent, I'm deeply concerned about school safety. Having spent several years living and working on one of our country's nuclear triad bases, I know firsthand that publicizing all safety measures can, in and of itself, create safety risks. I'd like to commend the board for your ongoing work to keep our schools safe and for understanding this critical aspect of security. If what we hear so often in this room were genuinely about child safety, why aren't we addressing real issues? Take October, for example. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Each year it's estimated that 5 million children are either direct or indirect victims of domestic violence. Schools and districts play a critical role in supporting these children, yet the so-called Parents' Bill of Rights, touted by Moms for Liberty members, adds at least one, if not multiple barriers to resources for child victims by protecting the rights of abusers to keep this information hidden at home. If the focus is truly on protecting children and school security, why are these same voices inviting harm into our schools by outside actors? This has never been about protecting children or parental rights. It's been about protecting what they see as their property from fabricated boogeymen. Children are not property, neither mine nor anyone else's. As human beings, they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity and to be protected from known harms. Abuse continues not just because of abusers, but because of society's tacit acceptance. In closing, this willfully dangerous nonsense was intentionally aimed at schools attended by children. I'm calling on each school board member to denounce the actions of Moms for Liberty of Wake when they posted and tagged Libs of TikTok with intentionally manipulated information, painting a target on a specific teacher, administrator, school, and even our school board. Members of the public, take note of who some of our school board members are associating with, and let that inform your vote in the upcoming election. Vote for candidates who are truly committed to protecting and educating all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bilodeau. Our next speaker will be Joseph Deaton, and Mr. Deaton will be followed by May Mitchell.
Ever since Kohlberg's research was published in 1966, child development specialists have known that children do not come to a realization until age 5 or 6 that the sex of a person is not merely something external like clothing or hairstyle, but is an intrinsic physical and immutable property of that person. Yet there are 16 storybooks on gender identity for children from the age of 4 found in various Wake School libraries. These books are insidious because they are interfering with normal child development by interjecting something abnormal. Whose agenda is this? The World Professional Association for Transgender Health asserts that transgender identity is a natural human variation. But how could it be natural when it requires radical pharmaceutical and surgical intervention in an attempt to change nature, which it can never really do? The argument that library books do not violate the Parents' Bill of Rights because they are not instructional materials is lame. Wake County should not be subverting a child's normal development, whether there is specific positive law or not. Then at the September 17 meeting, a 15-year-old girl with great courage told the board that she was so upset by a graphic, pornographic, and incestuous book that was read and discussed in English class that she dropped out of school. This was a violation of your own policy against sexual harassment because it was so severe it caused her to drop out. For all of your pronouncements about inclusion, you excluded her. After the backlash over that incident from the pastor at the last meeting, board member Lynn Edmonds, whose district included that student, promoted Banned Books Week in her comments. Well, it's not about banning books. It's about whether Wake County should be picking books out of the gutter for students to read, whether it's in the classroom or the library.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. Our next speaker will be May Mitchell, and May will be followed by Bailey Butler. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Wake County School Board members, I stand before you as a mother of 2 children in our public schools and as the daughter of an immigrant. I'm here to express my deep concerns about House Bill 10 and its potential harm to our education system and community. I'm providing you with a handout detailing how school vouchers have increased state deficits and dismantled public schools in 3 states that have implemented them, which is Ohio, Arizona, and Florida. HB 10, despite its promise of educational choice, threatens the very foundation of our public schools. It proposes to divert substantial funds, $248 million in non-recurring and $215 million annually. So the first year, that will be more than $400 million diverted away from public schools to private school vouchers. This could lead to reduced funding for teachers, bus drivers, instructional assistants, and other essential staff and resources. At my children's elementary school, we have already lost a school social worker, we have lost an interventionist, and we have lost a school counselor due to under-enrollment. This bill raises several alarming issues, the first being equity and access. Public schools serve all students, regardless of ability. Private schools have no obligation. How can we ensure the quality education for all when we can't hold private institutions accountable for public money? Second, rural impact. Many rural counties have limited or no access to private schools, yet they lose significant funding, Yadkin County being one example, over $100,000, despite having no private schools. Third is educational inequality. This bill seems to favor wealthier families who can supplement vouchers, potentially widening the gap in educational opportunities. And then the last that I find so reprehensible is community trust. The provision forcing law enforcement to cooperate with ICE is deeply troubling. This could shatter the trust we've built with our diverse communities, affecting our students' well-being and academic success. Imagine a child trying to focus on their studies while worrying about their parents' safety. We talked about domestic violence. This is another way that a child has to carry that burden. Consider the potential rise in unreported crimes as families become reluctant to interact with authorities. That doesn't stop the crimes from happening. It then leaks into the schools. None of this benefits our community. Resources that could improve public schools, address housing crisis, support communities impacted by environmental injustice, and health inequities are instead being diverted to private school vouchers. I just want to state, I am a product of public education, a daughter of an immigrant. I've seen firsthand how strong public schools and inclusive communities can change lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Our next speaker will be Bailey Butler, and Bailey will be followed by Maggie Fife. Good evening, Ms. Butler.
Hi, good evening. All right, my name is Bailey Butler, and I'm here to request the school board to keep families in Pearson Farms and Ashley Downs aligned to Olive Chapel Elementary School indefinitely, or at least until there's a correction to the current calendar alignment. To start off, proximity. Okay, sure, I listened to most of the working session today, and student assignment said during that session that 540 isn't a walkable option. But Apex has invested $5 million into their Safe Routes for Schools project. This is part of the greenway that runs behind our neighborhood. This project is designed, and I quote, to improve the expand town existing infrastructure for pedestrian and bicycle traffic to and from schools, to which Olive Chapel Elementary is specifically mentioned. Pearson Farms is the only OCE school connected to the greenway. Therefore, Apex tax dollars will be wasted if you move our communities away from OCE, who, by the way, Ashley Downs is 900 feet away, and Pearson Farms is half a mile, respectively, away from OCE. Again, per the working session today, you are listening to the folks in other communities like Bella Casa asking to keep that huge community from 3 elementary schools to 2, which is great and definitely needed, and I applaud you for that, and I hope that goes through. But Pearson Farms and Ashley Downs, we're tiny. There's not that many people here, and we're also technically split up between 2 elementary schools. Half of Pearson Farms goes to OCE, and the other half goes to Scotts Ridge. I know Scotts Ridge is also capped, but I implore you to reconsider plucking our 2 communities out of OCE and moving us to Bockham when there are better and more viable solutions for our cohort in the larger community. Our community, again, it's so small. You guys have the numbers. You won't give it to us. You can see this. Not only will we not significantly contribute to the underutilization percentages at Bockham, moving us isn't helping the overutilization at OCE. Moving us is not a solution the board faces. It's not a solution to what the issues that you guys face. I think also if you look to the proposed 25-26 rezoning map of OCE, you will find some initial, very obvious solutions to relieve some of these operational efficiencies. Another point to the working session was around the calendar misalignment, to which there isn't a confident solution. When watching that, I'm nervous. I don't think there is a solution that makes sense for my family based off how it stands today. In conclusion, please keep Pearson Farms at OCE, and if you can't, please move us to Scotts Ridge so we can be with our cohort and our community members. We share an HOA, we share a pool, we all live in that area together. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Maggie Fife, who will be followed by Caitlin Treader. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all for hearing our comments tonight. I'm here on behalf of the Enloe High School PTSA, whose board unanimously adopted the statewide PTA's nonpartisan resolution to keep public dollars in public schools by supporting Governor Cooper's veto of HB 10. PTAs around our state are aligned in supporting full funding for our public schools, which serve 85% of our state's children. If HB 10 passes, Wake County Public Schools alone would lose about $12 million. Imagine the consequences: continued teacher turnover and burnout due to low pay, continued problems with our school buildings as county money makes up for the state's low salary scales, longer bus rides, less support for our children with disabilities, and special education. Remember, private schools receiving vouchers generally don't admit children with disabilities. Less access to top-tier academic programs like advanced placement and international baccalaureate. Fewer electives. While these consequences will be tough for Wake County, they may be insurmountable for our rural counties already reeling from Hurricane Helene, many of which do not even have private schools but will see their budgets cut, as we just heard. Rural counties will see budgets for their kids diverted to subsidize wealthy kids in other counties. The North Carolina legislature's voucher program has primarily benefited wealthy parents, often making over $260,000 per year, since there is no income cap. As a parent, a PTA member, a Wake County taxpayer, and a North Carolinian concerned for all of our students, this is not a responsible use of our public funds. Transparency is a hallmark of our public school system. Private schools, even if they receive our tax dollars, as with HB 10, are not publicly accountable. You can casually Google any school, any public school, and see their demographics, test scores, student-to-teacher ratio, percent of licensed educators, and much more. Google a private school and you will find no consistent, transparent data on student performance on teacher preparedness. Nor do they have a public board, like this very board meeting tonight, dedicated to hearing and creating a process for resolving parent concerns. We might argue about certain issues, but at least we all have a say in them. We might disagree about certain actions, but at least these decisions are made in public. HB 10 would divert millions and ultimately billions of taxpayer dollars to institutions with no accountability, transparency, or commitments to serve all North Carolinians. And I'll just end with a quick quote from Diane Ravitch, who says, "It's immoral to defund public schools and then say they are failing. We have an opportunity to come together to support the children of our state by asking that lawmakers sustain the veto of HB 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be, Caitlin Treader, who will be followed by Carrie Whitaker.
Hello.
Good evening.
I have a visual aid for you all. This is a video, before I start my speech, of me walking from my neighborhood to the school, and it will finish before I'm done speaking, because I have arrived. After watching the Live of Your Work session, I had to completely change my speech. I had to completely rewrite it and prepare for something different. According to your own data, the virtual session for our community had the most participants by far compared to all the other sessions. According to your own data, the top themes were proximity and commute, stability and consistency. These apply to our neighborhoods more than any other neighborhood impacted. According to your own data, the top 3 rated thoughts are explicitly about our neighborhoods. Pearson Farms has access to a greenway that connects to Kelly Road Park, which has a brand new sidewalk along Kelly Road that goes to the school. You claim our communities have to cross a high-speed road and a major highway. The highway's below us. We don't set foot on 540. High speed? No, that is a school speed limit road. Starts at the beginning and goes all the way past the school to the intersection of Olive Chapel and Kelly Road. And we don't go near that intersection. That intersection has more accidents by far than crossing from Ashley Downs and Pearson Farms to Olive Chapel, because we do not cross any major roads. We don't cross any roads. It's the same road. We live off of the same road as the school. if you don't consider the road to be real road or not wide enough, then why isn't a higher priority on your road safety projects that were approved for millions of dollars? I looked at it today. It's rated medium, low, like not a high priority. But if it's that bad that you're making us move, why isn't it being improved? I'm wondering about that. And my husband and I walk side by side. We're not small people. My husband's over 6 feet tall. Two people can fit, okay? It's not a small road. It is a regular sidewalk that is protected. Moving our neighborhoods because of 540, and we're on the other side of Olive Chapel as opposed to the other side, and saying you have to drive past Olive Chapel to get to Bauckham. I'm sorry, but there are tons of areas on this map where multiple neighborhoods have to drive past 1, 2, 3 schools to get to the one they're assigned to. So to say that was just kind of, it made me laugh, to be honest. And I'm wondering, there's a small section in Cary, 20 minutes away, that is zoned for Olive Chapel Elementary School. If they miss the bus, they're screwed. They don't get to school. They're late. How are they getting a priority over us when it takes me 2 minutes and 26 seconds to walk from the school to my neighborhood? I had more to say, but I'm heated. I hope you guys take us seriously and find a better solution.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Carrie Whitaker, who will be followed by Robert Ristagno.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for this chance to speak tonight. I'm Carrie Whitaker. I'm the mother of an elementary school student here in Wake County. And just standing here tonight to remind this board and any person who might be watching or who might be listening to please not let the voices of an extremist minority distract us from real issues that are facing our schools. I volunteer pretty regularly at my child's school. It's something I love doing, and when I'm there, I'm working alongside administrators and teachers and fellow parents and staff members. And it is not an exaggeration for me to say that every time I send my child into her school, I am literally flooded with gratitude because I know that she is surrounded by dedicated, talented professional educators who are just as dedicated to her well-being as they are to her learning. And through my direct experience and observation, I can confidently tell you that our schools are not indoctrination centers. Our schools are not grooming centers, as they've been labeled by people who've stood before the board. Those accusations are not only false, they're also really deeply offensive. And what our schools are filled with are professional educators who are almost miracle workers in how much they're able to juggle. More than one person should reasonably be expected to juggle. They rise to that occasion over and over again. So the voices that might be ranting about book content or about what a teacher wore on Spirit Day, those voices are distractions. They are distractions from what really matters. And so I encourage us to really focus on things that matter, like physical safety. We live in an era of school shootings, and talking about safety enhancements to our school, that's a non-negotiable. Funding our schools, the full funding of our public schools, increasing our teacher pay so that we can recruit and retain the quality teachers that we need. And mental health resources. We know that our students face unique challenges, and we need to make sure that our schools have mental health resources available to meet their needs. So I, again, thank this board so much for your commitment to our public schools, and I'm glad that we're in this together, and I stand here to work with you because, after all, I see our public schools for what they are, our allies, not our enemies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitaker. Next up will be Robert, followed by Meg Schrader.
Thank you, board members. Robert Stagno, representing the Bella Casa neighborhood in Apex, and just wanted to send some gratitude from our neighborhood because for a few reasons. First of all, thank you for laying out such a clear process on the 4 pillars of student assignment. It really helped us understand where you were coming from, helped us make our case more clear and more aligned. And second of all, thank you for this morning for re-looking at the plan and helping us strengthen the pillars, especially with respect to stability, and hearing our arguments on how the proposed change to keep our small part of the neighborhood in Scotts Ridge, keep us there, helping improve operational efficiency, not making it worse. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all you do for our community.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Meg Schroeder, who will be followed by Brian Grovenstein, or Grovenstein.
Got it right the first time. Meg Schrader. I'm impressed.
right, thank
That
you.
good German surname, right? My name is Meg Schrader. I am the mom of 3 kids in 3 schools. I've never done this, but I feel so very passionate about this, and that's why I'm here. Again, I have 3 kids in 3 different public schools. We've been in these schools for 11 years. I've also been a substitute teacher, both long-term and daily, and I am so concerned about the potential of HB 10. I have seen firsthand what it looks like to be understaffed, underfunded, and undersupported. I was a long-term sub in kindergarten. Literally went home that first day. It was one of my first subbing jobs and cried for like an hour. Thank God I had teachers next door to me who came and checked in, and I had people who were able to support me. That did not always happen during those long-term subbing situations. There's not enough money for these teachers and for our support staff and for our bus drivers. I'm concerned overall, but especially with some potentially unknown consequences. This is something that I heard from one of our administrators as we were discussing some of these things when I was a PTA president in our elementary school. If parents take these vouchers and they go to a private school, but decide after a 20-day waiting period at the beginning of the school year to then go back to a public school, that voucher money stays with the private school. It does not go to that public school with that student. That is going to indicate further underfunding of these currently vastly undersupported schools. And that breaks my heart. I am a newly single mom of these 3 kids, and I need these schools, these teachers, these bus drivers. Miss Glinda she's there every single morning for my 4th grader as a bus driver. So much of public education is underfunded. Please don't take any more money from our schools. As our previous student so elegantly explained about our schools that are in dire need of refurbishment, we are in several of those schools where it's not necessarily safe for our students to be there all the time, and I recognize the dire need in Western North Carolina right now for rebuilding. There's some dire needs in Wake County as well that need to be addressed, safety issues, health concerns, and that's not even touching on the DEI things that some previous people have talked about. We are driving amazing teachers, staff, support staff, bus drivers, etc. away from these desperately needed positions. Putting my kids, the kids of this single mom, again, who I need these amazing individuals. I was just hearing somebody talk about how beautiful these miracle workers are, and I have seen that in action both as a coworker and as a parent and as a PTA president and member. We need these people. I need these people. Please stop driving them away. Please, please, please don't take funding away through HB 10. Thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Brian, will come on up, and Brian will be followed by Laura Haig. Good evening.
Perfect. Good evening. Good evening, members of the Wake County School Board. My name is Brian Grovenstein, and I'm a native North Carolinian and have 2 children in the Wake County Public School System. Tonight, I'm here with several members of the Bella Casa Verona and Siena community. Some are attending online and some are here behind us. I won't ask them to stand. We represent roughly 50 impacted children based on the previously posted school reassignment plan. The children who were recently impacted attended Scott Ridge Elementary School, which is on a traditional calendar track. The stability of my youngest child was going to be compromised as she had been reassigned to the new Pleasant Plains Elementary School. This school had been set up as a year-round calendar track. The matter of assigned tracks has been our highest concern from the moment the original plan was released. Our goal has always been to come up with solutions, not just hardships and problems. We, my neighbors and I, who attend Scott Ridge Elementary, had outlined several suggestions via the thought exchange, emails to Susan Pillman within the assignment office, the formal letters that you guys may have received over the last 48 hours, and we really thank you for being part of the solution. Our solution has always been to support the stability of our children. Families who currently attend a traditional calendar track, we really want to stay on that track. And follow the same example, families who potentially were on year-round tracks should stay on that same track. Based on the updated reassignment plan that was just released only hours ago, I've now rewritten some parts of this, and wanted to make sure that clearly our efforts had been making headway and heard. I appreciate the board seeing the small impact our families made in the enrollment of Scotch Ridge Elementary, and therefore allowing our families to have consistency in our annual calendar. I'd like to publicly thank the reassignment team and any board members that may have been involved behind the scenes making the adjustments to our neighborhood. At this time, I'd like to ask the board to formally approve the amended plan that was done just hours ago, keeping the children of Bella Casa Verona and Sienna at Scotch Ridge Elementary School on a traditional calendar track at the November 26th board meeting. Thank you for your time and consideration of the proposed revisions.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Laura Haig.
Hey, my name is Laura Haig. I live in the RTP area. I am a homeschool mom, so I don't even have a kid in public school. He was supposed to graduate kindergarten in June of 2020, so we did not get a full year, but the few months that we were there, I was so grateful for the team, as everybody said. So I wanted to thank you for letting me speak with you today. I hope you are enjoying the Barbenheimer 1940s stylization outfits that I've put together for you. I've heard that this is what the kids are doing. As a girl who grew up in public school, always being told that I was too much, I am here with my too muchness, decades after my middle school days, to speak to you about a teacher, his supportive administration, and the baseless claims being hurled at him. I'd like to take a moment to draw the parallel to this exact type of hateful and fabricated lies that leads to dangerous and deadly reactions. Exactly how we are seeing it play out in Western North Carolina right now. Putting a skirt on an atomic bomb doesn't make it something different. It's still a deadly weapon. Just like a male presenting human wearing a skirt does not make him something other than what he is. In this case, a teacher participating in the fun community building school spirit activities. It doesn't suddenly make him a predator. A Grooming for Dummies book doesn't suddenly show up on his Audible library. He wasn't that when he purchased those pieces of clothing out of his own budget, but that's for a different conversation. And he wasn't that when he showed up at school in those clothes. He was also abiding by all the dress codes put out, by the way. Furthermore, if he hadn't participated at all, I would assume that some of these parents would also be very upset that their child was not being provided with an appropriate level of pep rally, rah-rah fun by all teachers. I have so much more to say. I just want to remind everybody in this room that there's an election coming up. It's a big election, but the small ones matter. The small ones matter. Get registered and vote so that we do not continue having this horribleness around our children.
Thank you. All right, so we still have a lengthy list left of public speakers, but we've gone 30 minutes plus just on off agenda. So at this point in time, we're going to turn back to our regular business agenda. We'll hit several items on that, and then we'll return to complete our public speaker list. If you've already spoken and you don't necessarily need or want to stick around, we'll give you a minute just to take off, and then we'll get started again. All right? I mean, it's perfectly interesting, and if you want to stick around, I never can guarantee what'll happen on the next episode of Wake County School Board, but all right. Thank you all for coming out. Okay, so the next item on our agenda for tonight are comments from our superintendent. Holding that for a dramatic pause. Also, just to make sure that everyone who's remaining is seated. Remarks from our superintendent, Dr. Robert Taylor. Superintendent Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to you all. On October 3rd, I had the pleasure of announcing our 24-25 Principal and Assistant Principal of the Year. Shawana Jacobs of Leesville Road High School was named Principal of the Year, and Sebastian Ship of Millbrook Magnan High School was named Assistant Principal of the Year. Mrs. Jacobs became Principal of Leesville Road High School in June of 2023. This is her fourth principalship in our district, having also served as Principal of Roseville Elementary, Dillard Drive Magnet Middle, and Apex Friendship Middle. Mrs. Jacobs also was named the Assistant Principal of the Year in 2008 while serving in the role at Apex Middle School. Sebastian Ship has worked in our district for 21 years and has served as an Assistant Principal at Millbrook Magnet High School since 2015. In addition to his regular duties as Assistant Principal, Mr. Ship also supports his school by managing the Partnership with the Communities in Schools program, which has brought in more than $330,000 for students. He began his career as a math teacher at Garner Magnan High School. He has also served as an assistant principal at East Wake Magnan High School. I don't think it's a coincidence that both of this year's winners prioritize collaborative leadership. The best school leaders empower their students, families, and staff to play an integral part in their own success. Mrs. Jacobs says she approaches her role with the mindset of building trust and mutual respect. For example, when she took the helm at Leesville last year, she prioritized learning from the existing staff and community. She says, "I learned from staff who have been part of the school for many years. Their guidance helped me avoid potential missteps and allowed me to honor the school's history while working towards positive change." Mr. Ship also strives to make sure all of his conversations with students and colleagues are two-way discussion. He says, "Feedback, both informal and formal, is the cornerstone of the school environment I strive to create. Staff suggestions are not only encouraged, but acted upon." It's fitting that we bestow our annual awards to school leaders in October because that also happens to be National Principals Month. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our outstanding principals and assistant principals for the essential role they play in the success of their students and this school district. Our principals, through word and example, set the tone for their schools, creating environments that promote high achievement and cohesive community. They work long hours, and I'll say that again, they work long hours and have to make key decisions on a wide variety of matters on a daily basis. It's a tough job, but it's also a rewarding one, and we are fortunate to have principals at every school who are passionate about the power of education to change lives. My thanks to all of our school leaders for their skill, compassion, and determination to see that every child reaches their full potential. This week is National School Lunch Week, a time for us to recognize the importance of healthy, balanced meals and to celebrate our hardworking Child Nutrition Services staff members. I will have the good fortune tomorrow to visit York Elementary to mark the occasion and sample some of their pirate-themed menu items on offer this week in all our schools. The theme for School Lunch Week is Find Your Treasure. So our students will be treated to entrees such as Shiver Me Chicken Tenders and Treasure Map beef chalupas. October is also Farm to School Month, when schools feature North Carolina grown products. A kickoff event was held last week at South Lakes Elementary, where students participated in an apple taste test, and representatives from Butterball talked to students about cultivating and processing turkey in North Carolina. These are fun ways to highlight the wonderful quality and variety offered by our Child Nutrition Services staff. They are committed to making sure all students have access to proper nutrition they need to excel in the classroom and to grow into healthy adults. I hope you'll take time this week to thank the child nutrition workers at your child's school. They so much deserve it. I'd next like to remind everyone that the application periods for our magnet and early college schools are now open. The early college applications period ends December the 12th, and the magnet application ends January 23rd. Applications are not first come, first served, but don't delay. Take time now to explore the magnet or early college options that might suit your child's needs and interests. Individual schools will be offering tours in coming months, and there will be a magnet and early college fair in October on the 26th at Enloe Magnet High School. Magnet schools promote diverse student populations and specialized curriculum, creating well-rounded, dynamic students ready to take on the world. Our early college programs give students access to higher education opportunities as well as job training, allowing them to get a jump start on their college and career ambitions while still in high school, all tuition free. So learn more at wcpss.net/magnet. Lastly, I would like to commend the many students and staff who have taken the initiative to organize efforts to support hurricane recovery in the western part of our state. Many schools are hosting drives to raise funds and supplies to support our neighbors in western North Carolina after the devastating effects of Hurricane Helene. You can find a list of many of those efforts and how you can support them by visiting wcpss.net/hurricanehelp. I'm proud to lead a school district that is so full of compassionate people who are willing to take immediate action when they see people in need. The recovery period following the storm will take a long time, so thank you all in advance for anything you can do to help. Mr. Chair, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Taylor. That was all very well said. So well said that even though there is a lot that I had prepared for tonight in deference to our long speakers list and our agenda, I'm just going to waive my comments and just say ditto. So thank you. I will turn it over to our Vice Chair, Ms. Johnson-Hostler.
Thank you, and I will certainly be brief, because I promised Willow Spring High School that I would commend them for the work that they've done on their ramp, as many of our board members sit at the table and sign off on our ramp programs, our school counseling initiatives at our schools. They did one of the things that I often talk about and got to see in full action, which was the inclusion of a parent while I'm at the table with them, and so it was great to have this parent's feedback, who clearly knew all of the Spanish-speaking students at her school, because literally as we walked down the hall, she knew everyone. But it was a great piece of feedback that I will share and said I would share. In addition to their great work, the parent made the recommendation of something we've long-term, I've been working on this board, has really moved along, and that is the need for Spanish interpretation. And broadly speaking, one of the she gave a concrete examples that I'll share so I don't forget, and that is many parents may not understand what we mean when we say scholarship. And so that was the example she gave of, it'd be great if we offered the opportunity, not just for our family engagement nights, but for parents who are at pivotal points in their child's school career, like high school seniors or any of those terminal grades, that they have that information shared to them in a language that they can then understand exactly what's happening. And she certainly challenged us to look at the number of our English as second language learners who apply for scholarships in our schools, as a note to her belief is that number is going to be significantly low because we don't provide that opportunity. So again, kudos to the schools and all the work that they've done, and even more importantly, thank you for the engagement of parents and allowing that parent to sit in the space and share that with me as our school board member to lift up. I will say I've done a lot of walk, rides, and rolls. This was my first time being a spotter of a kid who literally chose his first time to be in his brand new inline skates down an incline. And First, I thought about his health and well-being, and then I also thought about our liability and Cecil. So needless to say, me, the grandmother, and the mothers kindly talked about a lot of things as we all surrounded this young person on their inline skates on walk roll. And I also kept like leaning to the Garner PD, like, "Gee, get up closer," who were on their new electric bikes. But again, thank you to all of our school students and parents who participated across the district. And then lastly, I was not here, and I was watching remotely. And again, thank you for the kindness that I can still watch our board meetings when I am several hours away, which I have to say, I was in Alaska for work during the Northern Lights, and they were more beautiful here in North Carolina. But nonetheless, I learned a lot from the 239 tribes while I was there. So I will leave you with this, which is usually Board Member Rice's place to talk about her wellness tips. So I'm going to leave you with a quote, or I've adapted from Tabitha Brown, and for those of you who don't know, for the culture, please Google her. My grandmother used to talk about this all the time, so I'll give you the preface that she used to say, tell me about people's last nerve, and I was curious about like why they only had one nerve as a child, and then she'd tell me how people have gotten on the rest of them, that's why there's only one left. So what I will tell you from Tabitha Brown is, friends, colleagues, peers, everyone in this room, don't let others, what they do, what they say, and how they look get on your nerve. Those of us who let people get on our last nerves often lack and can't find our own joy, and that's why they're fixated on what others are doing. It's about negativity. And I implore you to remember that our job, all of our jobs, is to remember, instead of getting caught up in what others are doing, let's focus on being good humans ourselves. And when we do the work for ourselves, on ourselves, we begin to spread joy, kindness, and we also protect our own joy. So friends, don't let anyone take that away by getting on your nerves, or you'll be like my grandmother and end up with one nerve.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson Hostler. I'm sorry, it's already getting late. All right, we'll come around the table. We'll start with Mr. Hershey.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty. I was pretty, I like coming up here and I like celebrating our students, and I was at a Friday night game where I was really enjoying the band and the drum line and all that stuff outside of our district, and just wanted to give a shout out to the amazing public school students that we have all across this state. And I enjoy talking about those things at the board table. But I'm going to talk about what everyone has been talking about tonight, and that is to address what happened at Martin Middle School. So everyone is fully aware of some of the facts. And listen, let me start by saying, I love passionate parents, and I talk to them, and I understand that they are advocating for their students, and I've had 22 months of that, and I tell them that I really understand where they're coming from. But a line was crossed, definitively crossed, because a picture that was taken about 12 months ago in Martin Middle School. You know how many parents reached out on that day, after that day? 0. I think it was in the yearbook. You know how many parents reached out to me about that? 0. Because nobody cared. It was totally fine within a Spirit Week. And so to have the teacher, the principal, the school, to be doxxed on social media by an anonymous account, which was no doubt belonging to a member of the hate group Moms for Liberty, and the comments, I read the comments. I was up till 3 a.m. I was furious last night. The comments about our principal and our teacher were disgusting. There was zero purpose in that post except to promote hate and division and bullying. It was disgusting. And I fully support Martin Middle School and the decisions they made. They went through a process. They listened, they went through a process. They do not deserve in any way, shape, or form what happened on social media. You can take a picture of me, that's fine, because more people are going to be on my side.
Is he supposed to address me?
If you're going to take I don't really care right now because y'all doxed somebody, a teacher and a principal, and disgusting things were said.
All right. There will be no comments from the gallery during board comment. Second warning, there will be no comments from the gallery during the board
Our
public
teachers
comment.
and our principals do not deserve that. You want to take it at me, that's fine. I'm an elected official, I can handle it. What that teacher did didn't affect how he was teaching. Didn't affect that school at all. Didn't affect anybody in that school. You crossed a line. And I think it's shameful, and my heart is full by the response from the community, because I was in a bad place earlier today. I was really angry. And I thank you all for turning up, and it is a small group of hateful people, and I appreciate y'all. That's the end of my board comments.
Next speaker will be Dr. Ng. Again, our next speaker, thank you. Our next speaker will be Dr. Ng.
Yes, thank you. I again wish to also congratulate Principal Shawana Jacobs from Leesville Road High School for winning the Principal of the Year award. But I'm especially proud of Assistant Principal of the Year award that went to one of our own from District 3, Sebastian Ship. One of the things that I remember fondly was when he won, it was just a wonderful moment when he broke out in song of singing a praise to God for the recognition. So I really want to congratulate him for his accomplishments, for his years of leadership and inspiration. And I also want to just continue to pray for all the people of Western North Carolina, all the people who have come out to help those people, the volunteer groups, charities, the church groups that have stepped up to help. And I am also thankful for the many sheriff deputies and police officers from all over the state, even from other states, that have gone to help provide aid to the local law enforcement. Unfortunately, the help from the federal and state governments have been slow to arrive, and it's been bogged down in bureaucratic red tape. But I know that the people of Western North Carolina are resilient people, and the neighbor helping neighbor attitude is what's going to help them get through this tragedy. Still, we need to make sure that they are able to exercise their right to vote in this coming election, and I trust that the North Carolina Board of Election is working hard to make sure that no one is disenfranchised during this crucial election. And speaking of election, as you all know, the election is coming up, and it is your right and responsibility as citizens of the United States to participate in your civic duty. And Election Day is November 5th, and our schools will be closed. I think it's a good opportunity for parents to use that to teach the children about the election process and how we choose our elected officials. I would especially encourage you all to discuss the Electoral College and how the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, came up with this system. You can also discuss how the two houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives, created a balance between the interests of large states and small states. It is really important that our children understand how blessed we are to have a governmental system that gives a voice to everyone, no matter how they live. And finally, when you do go out to vote, please be an informed voter. We should always understand the issues and vote for candidates who align with your views on the issues. And don't be a one-issue voter either. Our world is more nuanced than the one issue that affects your piece of the world. Don't just vote based on a particular candidate and how that person makes you feel, or what kind of derogatory, negative remarks you may hear about someone else. In this heated political climate, you do have to question everything you hear. So do your homework and work and vote for the people who are able to do the job that they are set to do, they are elected to do. And think about your future, think about your children's future. It is not enough to ask the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? think about how you can make this world a better place for your children 4 years from now. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Ms. Lynn Edmonds. Ms. Edmonds, sounds like
Sorry, I'm laughing because you're rattling us off like we're the... Thank you, Chair. So first of all, I want to congratulate Athens Drive Magnet High School for their, Superintendent Taylor, I was so hoping you were going to cover this, Cognia accreditation. Athens had not been, they had been accredited by Cognia, but not since 2018. So not only did they go after it and get it, so get reaccredited with Cognia, but they also earned the Cognia School of Distinction Award, which is a big deal, and thinking Dr. Taylor was going to cover it, I didn't write down more specifics. So my apologies. I'll redo it in 2 weeks to give them the proper recognition. And it's on our website. It is on our website, so please check that out. But congratulations to Athens on that accomplishment. Thank you to Middle Creek High School and Vernon Malone College and Career for inviting me recently to learn about their RAMP applications. This is a distinction given by the American School Counselors Association. You've heard many of us board members talk about this. We do go and listen to their presentations, and we are one of many people that just sort of has to sign off on it. But it just is, you know, these are incredible staff members that do exceptional things in their counseling services for our students. So I'm very grateful to them. I'm grateful for their work. I know that not only do they help make students' lives better, but as was discussed in both of these presentations, they do focus also on supporting their academics. So I am confident that both of the schools will be awarded the distinction, and I wish them well in that endeavor. At the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about HB 10 and school vouchers. Voucher supporters say that this offers school choice when it's actually the schools that do the choosing. School choice does exist within our public school system, and as Dr. Taylor mentioned, I want to celebrate that our Magnet Early College Year-Round and Application School Period opened yesterday. Unlike voucher schools, these schools of choice are free. Public schools held to the same standards as all public schools in North Carolina. Acceptance into these programs is not dependent on family or student religion or lifestyle. Students are accepted even if their parent or guardian cannot commit to a set number of volunteer hours. None of that is applied here. These are public schools of choice. There's a large magnet and application school fair coming up on Saturday, October 26th. There are also virtual information sessions, and families can learn more by going to the program tab on our website and click Magnet Schools. Finally, the first District 5 BAC meeting of this school year will happen on Monday night, the 21st, I think is the right date. Anyway, this coming Monday night at 5:30 at Oak Grove Elementary School. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Ms. Mahaffey.
Thank you. On Saturday, or Friday, I can't remember, Ms. Johnson-Hostler and I were able to go to an event to help raise money for school children impacted by Hurricane Helene. And we were able to hear by a rural Buncombe County teacher about the impact of that disaster on her home, on her school community, on her family. And she is now here in Wake County, and she's grateful that she's able to be received in a welcoming manner by our incredible teachers and staff in Wake County schools. Back in February, I was a part of a group that brought together local elected officials, so town, school board, county commission, to meet from all across Western North Carolina. And my first thought after the devastation was reaching out and seeing how things were for those folks that I was able to meet and connect with. And hearing from them, they are getting help from the government, both state and federal, from the military and the National Guard, and from private folks. and they are grateful and thankful for that outpouring of support that is continuing to pour in. And many thanks to our schools that have stepped up to accept donations and to recognize that empathy for people when they are hurting is the human response. Parents, I want to thank you for continuing to engage in the thought exchange for our assignment plan. Please know that we are reading and continually looking at areas that you ask us to look at and address. And as a side note, last night I was able to go to the Apex Indigenous Peoples celebration for Indigenous Peoples Day, and I saw a familiar face of Miss Gwen Locklear, who for 20 years was the person in charge of our Indian education program in Wake County, and as suspected, her retirement is now helping Johnston County Schools. So we knew that she couldn't stay away long, but many thanks, and I just want to reiterate the human response when there are issues is empathy and helping. And that is the response that you get from our teachers, from our administrators, and I am so grateful for each and every one of them.
Thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. We'll come back around the table to Ms. Rice.
Y'all are ready, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's do this. To all the staff of Wake County Public Schools, let me be clear. You are valued, needed, supported, and will be protected. Your dedication to our students and the community does not go unnoticed, and we stand with you every step of the way. Thank you for the vital role you play in shaping the future of our children and ensuring the success of our schools. Together, we will continue to create a positive and inclusive environment for all. Congratulations to our principal, Shawana Jacobs, and assistant principal, Sebastian Shipp. As the principal and assistant principal of the year, we are so proud of your dedication and leadership. I had a fun-filled day on Saturday, October the 5th, with other board members. I attended the 55-year celebration of Project Enlightenment at Project Palooza, and I also took part in the inaugural Saturday School through Wake County Public School Family Academies in partnership with the Southeast Raleigh YMCA. These two events continue to empower and support our families across the district, and it was a privilege to be a part of them. I had an amazing time supporting District 4 over the past 2 weeks. First, I would like to acknowledge and give a big thank you to the student who shared your direct concerns about facilities. Your voices are invaluable, and we are committed to addressing them. Additionally, I want to recognize the Boys and Girls Breakfast of Champions, where I had the honor of supporting and participating in events at the Boys and Girls Club at the Raleigh Boulevard location. I also attended the Carnage Middle School ramp presentation. It was absolutely amazing sharing how they improve student achievement and morale, showing the 7th grade data of 21 students who were failing and took it down to just 4. I also was excited about how they use an equitable lens on utilizing students' achievement, attendance, and discipline. So congratulations to the Carnage counseling team for your ramp certification. A special shout out to Principal Moore of Hunter Elementary for the invitation to attend the Walk to School Day, which promotes safe routes to school and foster community engagement. It was a great walk alongside students, staff, and parents from Roberts Parks to Hunter Elementary School to an outdoor assembly. I had a magnificent time socializing with community in the past 2 weeks, and the last event was this past Friday at Knightdale Town Hall at Mayor Jessica Day's Academy, where we spoke about our roles in Wake County Public Schools, and Knightdale holds a special place in my heart because this is where I started my advocacy in roles into education. So let's continue to work together to make Wake County Public Schools a positive and supportive environment for everyone. So to do so, let us focus on what? Social wellness. So, as a Wake County Public School Board member, I believe it's essential to promote social wellness for our students, staff, and broader community. Here are 2 key tips that can help strengthen our social well-being. Foster open communication and support networks. Encouraging open dialogue within our school and community is vital. Students, staff, and families should feel safe expressing their feelings, concerns, and ideas, whether it's through peer support groups, counseling services, or simply fostering an environment of respect and empathy. Building strong, supportive relationships can greatly enhance everyone's social wellness. Number 2, promote inclusive and engaging activities. Creating opportunities for students and staff to engage in team building activities, community service, and collaborative projects strengthens connections and promotes a sense of belonging. By embracing diversity and inclusion in these activities, we build a stronger, more connected school community that celebrates each individual's unique contributions. Let's continue to work together to ensure that Wake County is a place where everyone feels valued, supported, and connected so that they all can have a positive and productive day.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Board Member Caulfield.
Thank you. I was elected to the board based on advocating for students and teachers, and I stand up here doing just that. Our purpose here is to advocate for what we can do here at Wake County Public Schools. While I'd love for us to not be discussing political points of views, I understand that we have an election coming up, and I think we all will be very happy when November is over and we can get back to that focus. So there are some facts that I would like to clarify so people know all of the facts that are available, because these details do matter. So please go to the NCSEAA website. That's the organization that assists with the planning, the changing of the spending of the funds. They assist with those in the 529 college plans, funding and loans, and community college assistance. They can answer any questions, and they do have a lot of details there about the Opportunity Scholarship vouchers. The only numbers that are actual are the ones that have already been given out. Everything else is a hypothetical number. This year, there was 28,056 renewal students. That means they've already received funds in the year prior. The majority were in Tier 1, the families under 57,000, and Tier 2, 115,000. Only 766 were in Tier 4, and out of that, 726 did not report their income. That left 41 students that actually were high-income earners. That's a much different picture. This year, we won't actually know those numbers up front until they actually hand the money out. The better question for us to ask is, why were there 72,000 new applicants in February? They are not awarded 72,000 students. They are only applicants. But that is the size of some of our school districts here in North Carolina. And we know it's reported that there's only 25%, a quarter of those students attend public school. A quarter of those don't attend public schools. So I would like to know why, so that we can improve where possible and be their number one choice. So the statement that it is primary for the wealthy, it's actually the least amount that was given the funds and the least amount that has actually applied. So I worry about our students. I worry about our students leaving, but also our teachers that are leaving after so many years in service, but some are even new as well. And we can replace them all day long, but the retention, them enjoying their actual job, affects our students. We speak about well-being. There's no well-being when they don't feel heard, their job becomes too difficult and harmful in some situations. Of course, we all want pay. We all agree on that. but they want their classroom to have order and resources so that they can reach their goals. They are excited to see their children thrive, but when that doesn't happen, they feel deflated, they feel worried, and filled with anxiety. The reasons they love their job is depleting. These are things that the teachers themselves has said to me, emailed us. I know that they've talked to us. I know that they've talked about it with us. It's decisions that are made up here at our level. Nobody's saying that our schools aren't wonderful. They are. We have great opportunities. Our principals are awesome. Our teachers are awesome. I think they really just need more support. The families want to be heard. They need more support. Not everything costs money either, and sometimes the monies can be better spent. To ignore all these, I feel, is neglectful on our part. As a mother, as a parent, I would like to know all the details before voting, and this is why I'm pointing this out. More money doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't, if it doesn't see the right places, like our classrooms. Last year, we got extra money. Every year, we get extra money. $50 to $60 million more each time. One time, last year, actually, we gave our teachers the 5.5% raise. That was 4% from the state and 1.5% from us on their supplement. Some teachers have not even seen $1 of that because it never reaches their paycheck. With the raising costs of their retirement, sometimes they actually earn less because if they're not receiving any longevity pay or any other hikes, they see less money. I spoke to a teacher who was here for 18 years and she left us because she started to make less money. That to me is really sad. That actually really gets me upset. That's why I'm advocating for the longevity pay, because I think that would help close that gap for those teachers. With the vouchers, the GA does have a provision, a section in the law that reinvests the savings back into the public schools. The 72,000 applicants that were there, it's not approved yet. Not all of them will qualify, and they're not all going to receive those things. But I wanted to point out that there's an Appropriation Act, Section 7.82C, that was passed in 2003 for people to see that the savings will actually go back to the public schools. One thing that I did want to, I know a lot of people are voting on their emotions, and I understand it. There's a lot at stake here. But I think the better question is to ask, why did 72,000 people apply? And if we need to listen and not pretend that everything is just going great. We owe it to the teachers and the students to improve where we can and acknowledge the work where it's needed. I think it's really important to say that it's not that I'm not supporting the teachers and not supporting our schools. I think it's more about our choices that we're making here. If we could listen to them, I think we won't have a question between the teachers wanting to stay, our bus drivers wanting to be here, and the parents wanting to leave. I think if we listen to that, if we address those concerns, we won't have 72,000 people applying for vouchers to get out of the public schools. Another argument that I wanted to point out is that we're talking about it being public school, public funds going to our public schools, and that we're stealing money from our public schools. But are the same people that are against the vouchers, are they okay with the taxpayers' money paying for student loan forgiveness or down payment for our homes? This is the same kind of money that we're talking about. I would like for us to do a survey that follow up and so that we can get unbiased report from our families so that we can see where they can grow to be their choice. I'm not sure how we can do that. Each and every parent that left the numbers and surveys so that we can understand with open blanks for them to honestly answer with real data, not selected choices. That's why I'm asking if we can actually submit some kind of survey or work on that. Then we could have a good conversation about what our students need. I'm going to skip the rest. I wanted to congratulate the Principal of the Year and the Assistant Principal of the Year. And last, I would like to know if there is a way that we can support that NICA program, especially during the pandemic. This activity, I know, really helped a lot of our students, and I'd like for us to consider that. I'm not sure how we go about accepting a program like that or putting it into effect, but I would like the board to consider it. I know it's a great program. They do follow a lot of the safety things, and they're all over the country, so I think it would be great for us to support that. Thank you.
And we will conclude with Mr. Swanson.
Chair, can you remind them of the rules really quickly?
Again, we've been allowing just a few claps and expressions at the conclusion of speeches. Just please do not interrupt speakers while they are speaking.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ms. Johnson-Hostler, for opening up with Tabitha Brown, because I had to channel that a couple of times to figure out what nerve I was actually dealing with. And so thank you for allowing me to center. Yes, it's all joyful. And so is voting is joyful. Voting is joyful because you get to choose leaders who value public education, who value public schools. Those who believe in a system deserve to be in leadership, not those who call our teachers, quote, pedophiles and groomers, and call schools social indoctrination centers or socialism centers. Those who align themselves with deadly insurrections have no business leading our schools because, you know, if you're going to, I'll stop there. But those folks, elections do have consequences. And I also think as we are 2 days away from early voting that lasts for 17 days, if you missed the voter registration deadline that was on Saturday, or Friday, excuse me, last Friday, you have 17 days to take advantage of that. Bring your ID. Take advantage of the same day one-stop early voting because, you know, character matters. Integrity matters. Leadership matters. Those are things that all matter when you look for folks who are holding positions. Also, dig deep, look deep, do your research, because I encourage voters to reject those who have aligned themselves with hate groups, who have aligned themselves with false and misinformation, who have aligned themselves with this deadly force that wants to take not just our schools back to a harmful place, but our country as well. I also want you to think through, you know, read Project 2025. Look at the harmful attacks it's going to have on public education. Head Start, Title I funding that helps our most vulnerable populations of students. And when you look at that, also look at read through those 900 pages because it's interesting to look through. Better than a survey, I would say. But I believe it is important to look through that stuff and important to see who and what those candidates align with. And as you do that, bring 5 folks to the polls with you. Make sure you have your plan. Make sure you exercise your rights because elections have consequences. Choose those folks who are going to advocate for public schools, not just when it's convenient for their schedules, not just when it feels good, but when it's tough. When it's difficult, those who are going to go down and raise their concerns, the people's concerns, not an agenda, not a political agenda, but you know, since education has become very politicized, we have to speak up, we have to step out, and we have to speak up because public schools are a public good that deserves to be protected, invested, and preserved. So that is going to be the conclusion of mine, and I will say that I want to thank Board Member Rice for the invitation for inviting me to District 4 to participate in the Family Academy celebration. And I'm going to close with the great Tabitha Brown. And I'm going to say, and this is a Tabitha Brown quote that, you know, is a good quote, and it's some goodness that always comes. So that's that joy that I'm going to bring us back to. Full circle, Board Member Johnson-Hostler. So she goes on saying, have a good day. And if you can't, don't you dare go messing up anybody else's day. So take that with you. Happy voting. Go vote. Show up. Poll greet. Talk to your friends and families. Happy voting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. All right, so the next item on our agenda is consideration of our consent agenda.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda?
We have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey to adopt the consent agenda, and I believe I heard a second from Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler. Is there any discussion or any debate? If not, all in favor of adoption of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda has been adopted. We'll next go to our action agenda. Our action agenda tonight consists of several policy items, and the first of which, hold on, let me scroll down here just to make sure. It should be Board Policy 7400 on job descriptions. If That's correct. And I don't know, will that be Dr. Mutillo or will that be Dr. Crane? Okay. We'll wait just a minute for Dr. Mutillo to arrive. And actually, Dr. Mutillo has a whole series. These will be these are all on first reading, but you'll remember these were debated and discussed in our policy committee meeting earlier. Job descriptions, teacher responsibilities and duties, personnel files, petition for removal of records, all in this series. Welcome, Dr. Mutillo.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty, and good evening, everybody. Tonight I am bringing these 4 policies. They are all school board model policies. I will remind you that the black text is the school board language, blue text is the additions from current policy or staff suggested revisions, and green text is where we've moved certain provisions within the policy. First policy is 7400 for job descriptions. It would replace 3219, job description teacher. There was general consent for this during the policy committee and not a ton of discussion. This version does broaden the policy beyond teacher job descriptions to all employee job descriptions. I think that's kind of the main difference there. So tonight, we're requesting the board's approval of the first reading of policy 7400.
Thank you, Dr. Mutillo. Staff has requested approval on board policy 7400. Is there a motion? Is there a second? We have a motion from Ms. Edmonds, a second from Mr. Hershey. Is there any discussion or any questions for Dr. Mutillo? Again, I think this was pretty thoroughly discussed in our policy committee. All right. All in favor of adoption of board policy 7400 on first reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Dr. Mutillo, next on the list.
Next is 7405, teacher responsibilities and duties. It would replace policy 3220. There's a bit more discussion in policy committee around this, so I'll just include a little bit more in my remarks here. In first, you'll see a section highlighted in yellow because this was not part of the policy committee, but sometime between policy committee and bringing it to you, there were some questions that we felt like we should take the opportunity to try to address in policy while we were bringing it. So we've added language just recommending limiting extra duty assignments like department chairs to beginning teachers without their consent. We have this in the provision under non-instructional duties like coaching, which is a statutory requirement, but we wanted to add similar language here. Again, not preventing a principal from assigning a department chair duty to a beginning teacher, but recommending that they limit that. Also in section C, board asked to remove the word however and begin with any teacher's failure to perform an assigned non-instructional or extracurricular duty, just wanting to make sure that it was any teacher and not just a beginning teacher. So those are the main points on this one, and tonight requesting the board's approval of the first reading of policy 7405.
All right, thank you.
I make a
Excuse me.
motion, we approve this policy on first reading.
We have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey. Second. And we have a second from Ms. Edmonds. Is there any discussion or debate, or is there any questions for Dr. Mutillo? Again, you can see the changes he referred to right there on the first page, page 1, and the last page, page 5 of the amended policy coming out of committee. All right? In that case, all in favor of the adoption of Board Policy 7405 on first reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay. It's passed and we'll go to second reading. Board Policy 7820.
Okay. So personnel files, we did review this in both the August and September policy committee meeting because the board had some questions around some of the language, so we've brought back what we hope reflects that discussion, and now this policy more tracks both with the state board policy as well as legislation. So some of the provisions we've made clear now is that HR may investigate complaints to determine whether they are invalid, outdated, irrelevant, or no documentation of an attempt to resolve. Supervisor should use good judgment in recommending documents to be included in the personnel file. Superintendent or designee will provide principals or supervisors guidance on monitoring and documenting concerns outside of this policy, and then employees will get notice that a complaint and rights to offer a denial or an explanation to that complaint before as it's presented in the personnel file. So tonight we're asking the board's approval of the first reading of policy 7820.
Thank you, Dr. Mutillo. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey and a second from Dr. Ing for adoption of Board Policy 7820, personnel files on first reading. Are there any questions for Dr. Mutillo or any discussion of the policy? Again, Dr. Mutillo, I appreciate the work you and staff put into just adding more detail and clarifying some of those extra provisions that were raised in committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor of the adoption of Board Policy 7820, personnel files on first reading, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the policy is passed and will be considered for second reading. The number 4 in this series of 4, Board Policy 7821, petition for removal of personnel records on first reading.
Yep. Again, had agreement around language coming out of policy committee. The only minor change there is we added designee after superintendent where appropriate. So tonight requesting the board's approval of the first reading of policy 7821.
Thank you, Dr. Mutillo. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Mahaffey for adoption of Board Policy 7821, petition for removal of personnel records on first reading, with a second from Mr. Hershey. Again, just a technical change based, otherwise just as what we discussed in policy committee. No questions, no discussion. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Dr. Mutillo. Board Policy 7821, in addition to the others, have all passed on first reading and will go to second reading.
Thank you all.
We do have one other policy on our action agenda tonight. This is Board Policy 8623, Settlement of Claims, on first reading. We'll hear from David Nieder.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Haggerty, members of the board, and Superintendent Taylor. Tonight we're bringing you Board Policy 8623, Settlement of Claims, for first reading. Policy was discussed at your June, August, and September policy committee meetings. The revised policy essentially makes one change and one addition. The change is in the amount of settlement authority given to the superintendent. The settlement amount in the revised policy is up to $30,000. The revised policy also requires that any settlement over $10,000, but up to that $30,000 limit, be reported to the board. Any settlements over $30,000 will continue to require board approval. The addition to the policy has to do with giving the superintendent, in consultation with the board attorney, the authority to enter into a tolling agreement for up to 90 days. And just as a reminder, a tolling agreement is effectively an agreement between two parties that suspends the statute of limitations from expiring to allow parties to continue to negotiate. So those are the revisions to the policy, and we bring it to you tonight for first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Nieder. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve Board Policy 8623 on first reading from Ms. Mahaffey, a second from Mr. Hershey. Any discussion? Ms. Mahaffey.
Yes. It may seem like we're kind of rubber stamping these policies. I want to refer folks, if they're interested, to look at our September 24th Policy Committee meeting, well, equally as animated. There was robust discussion over many of these policies, and so those are all available on our YouTube channel if you want to spend 2 hours of your time listening to some very polite conversation and such. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. And thank you for making that reference, Ms. Mahaffey. And I just have a technical question. I'm sure you've raised this, but just for clarification, all settlements will be brought before the board? All settlements that have been approved or whatnot?
Settlements do have to be reported out.
Okay, that was the question
We'll ask Mr. Malone just for some further clarification.
So under the revised policy, settlements between $10,000 and $30,000 will be reported to the board in some fashion that we'll determine, but the board will learn of all settlements between $10,000 and $30,000. Settlements over 30 will continue to come to the board, And the settlements that the board reviews in closed session are the ones that will then get announced, typically following closed session.
Thank you. Do you follow up?
Yes, I just raised that because I know we live in a universe where alternative facts don't matter, and so I wanted to make sure that the public knew that just because this policy is being presented, we're not going to be briefed on these information. So that was just the question that I had. So thank you for allowing me to raise that.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. You know, the other thing, without getting into 2-hour discussions of the merits of tolling agreements, one of the real advantages of this policy is that it does help us to settle claims by allowing us to enter that agreement where to negotiate a settlement, work something out, rather than having to face each other as hostile litigants in court. And so I appreciate that positive step toward dispute resolution. I think it'll help improve relations with, you know, all parties and really help resolve a lot of these issues. So thank you for that as well. Are there any other questions or any other discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All in favor of Board Policy 8623, Settlement of Claims on first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Nieder, thank you. It
Thank
has
you.
passed and will be considered for second reading. All right, everyone. So that concludes our action agenda. So now we will resume our public comment period. So take a stretch, and I will return to our list here. All right. Next on our speakers list, again, we have 28 speakers signed up, but we have gone through several. So the next on the list, actually, I'll get him while he's still standing, Mr. Balog, before you sit down. We'll resume with you, and then Mr. Balog will be followed by Bobby Vincent.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for your time. Last meeting, a picture of the audience made it out on social media with a big red arrow pointing to one of the 9 attendees. I was in that group. The text said, "Don't forget A, running in Wake School Board District A, right in the middle of extremist stunts. Tisk, tisk, A. We see the extremist company you keep." We are the public. We are not extremists. We are not terrorists. We are concerned parents, grandparents, and taxpayers. And I'll be darned if I'm going to sit there and get lectured to by a board that's putting out 60% grade level reading, math, and science. If any of you had a product that was 40% efficient, you'd all be out of business. And yet I'm paying 47% of my taxes to all of you. So there was a bunch of crap going on, a lot of laughter, and a lot of slap on the backs. This is a pitiful school county grade. There's a few other things. I don't know if I'm going to get through it now. I'm extreme enough to visit legislatures, walk 10 miles some weeks to go door to door to alert parents, voters, taxpayers, how abysmal the grades are for this area, how approximately 50% of their taxes are going to the WCPSS, and you continue to ask for money. You are bloated at the top. I've heard you got $1.4 million for DEI. I told you a year ago, DEI will suck you down like a vortex. You start out with a manager, a director, an executive, a vice president. I've got a list of over 30 companies I'm going to bring next time I talk. UNC Chapel Hill dropped DEI. University of Florida dropped DEI. John Deere dropped DEI. Why? Because it makes a terrible business decision. And your product, I don't want to call students products, but your product is an educated, literate thinker who can contribute to society, not just taking our money. I'm a little bit annoyed. And I've also gone door to door, and I've told them how teachers haven't seen a decent increase in years, how this board, with a 7-2 implemented the unconstitutional changes in Title IX that will be overturned. I will continue to do so because I believe we, the people, not you, the board, is in charge. We pay the money for your programs. We want educated, literate thinkers. And I don't appreciate the picture of the school board going public. It needs to stop. In full transparency, investigate. Thank you very much.
All right, our next speaker will be Bobby Vinson, and Miss Vinson will be followed by Megan Sarah, or Sarah.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Hagerty, and parents and community members. My name is Bobby Vinson, and my child attends Wake County Public Schools. I'm also a product of public school education. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to be brief. I'm here to address the trumped-up allegations about a respected English language arts teacher. These accusations are fueled by Moms for Liberty, center around the teacher wearing a tutu during a school spirit week. I'm just going to leave you with that for like a second to think about it. School Spirit Week is supposed to be something fun that we all get involved with. We celebrate when our teachers get involved. The kids have more respect for the teachers who do these things. It's a fun time. The fact that this has turned into what it's turned into, I'm very confused about. School Spirit Days are meant to bring school community together in a lighthearted and inclusive way. The teacher's decision to wear a tutu was actually a playful way to connect with the students, to contribute to the spirit of the event. It was an innocent gesture, fully in line with the purpose of the day, for which I have learned the theme was Barbenheimer. Way to go, Magnet School, Martin. Thank you. The claims of indoctrination are not only exaggerated, but they're a misuse of the term. By definition, indoctrination refers to teaching someone to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. There is no evidence that this teacher's playful attire worn on School Spirit Day was an attempt to impose any ideology on students. We got to be careful not to label everything lighthearted as a threat. It was innocent, a fun moment. It was definitely not indoctrination. So I believe our schools face far more pressing challenges. Instead of wasting time on divisive culture wars, we should focus our efforts on solving real issues that face our schools, stuff like funding teacher shortages, teacher retention, academic performances, and our discussions should not be based on unfounded claims. The attack from Moms for Liberty is nothing more than a distraction from the real work that needs to be done to improve our schools. I appreciate every teacher. They are the backbone. I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight is Megan Sarah.
Good evening. I am a mother of a child who attends a Wake County magnet school, and I'm also a speech-language pathologist in our community. I'm here in support of the ELA teacher and Martin Magnet Middle School involved in this recent incident that has been discussed. This goes beyond a single day of Spirit Week, a fun and creative opportunity for students and teachers alike to express themselves through themed dress-up. The teacher in question simply embraced the spirit and fun of the day by wearing a skirt in full compliance with school guidelines. The backlash here is misplaced. Instead of fearing what we don't understand, why not embrace it? Fear and misunderstanding can have profoundly negative effects on our children, stifling their growth and their ability to engage with the world around them. It's vital to create environments where students are exposed to diverse perspectives and cultures. This exposure fosters empathy, open-mindedness, and a stronger sense of community. We cannot pretend that our realities are the only ones that exist, and our children benefit from learning this very early on. In my work as a speech therapist, I use play, and creativity in therapy. For example, I often introduce baby dolls to both boys and girls to help them practice empathy and caregiving skills. Research has shown that engaging in these kinds of activities enhances their emotional and social development. So the idea that themed dress-up or clothing can somehow push an agenda is not based on any factual evidence. It's rooted in fear.
And fear only narrows our children's horizons. In fact, as per the Journal of Educational Psychology, programs designed to promote tolerance significantly enhance children's empathy and their willingness to engage with peers from diverse backgrounds. A study by the American Psychological Association found that early exposure to diverse identities leads to greater acceptance and reduces biases in children. Additionally, this helps to dismantle prejudices that can arise from ignorance. Engaging and playful teaching methods, like participating in Spirit Week, actually have real benefits. Research shows that fun and engaging teaching methods can significantly increase student engagement and retention of information. When teachers connect with students in creative and playful ways, they help create an inclusive environment where learning is more dynamic and students feel more comfortable and engaged. While we're discussing issues of inclusion, it's important to bring up broader policies that affect our community. HB 10, for example, aims to create more division and fear, particularly targeting immigrant students and their families. When children feel unsafe or targeted, their ability to learn and thrive diminishes. Wake County Schools should remain a space where all children feel welcomed and secure regardless of their background. Finally, I want to commend the leadership at Wake County Schools for supporting their teachers in embracing individuality and playfulness. Through their commitment to inclusivity, they help create an environment where students can thrive, express themselves, and learn from the diversity around them. This is how we build a loving and supportive community, and it's a vision we should all support. Thank you.
Thank you. So, our next speaker is Jessica Lewis, who will be followed by Nicole Baldridge.
I'm going to go a little off topic. First of all, I just want to say I've been speaking at these school board meetings for 4 years, and Moms for Liberty is not a hate group. I met tons of wonderful people, and we wouldn't have to come to these meetings if you guys were doing your job. There's been CRT, SEL, DEI. The focus has not been on academics in 4 years. So until you get your act together and start focusing on reading, writing, and math for our children, yes, we will be coming and trying to hold you accountable. It's not working very well, though. So I'll go with my speech. My name is Jessica. I have 2 children in the Wake County Public School System. I also am the chair for Moms for Liberty. I'm here tonight to address the fact that my daughter does not feel safe in her ELA class. He talks about his gay personal life to the students, and you guys say the skirt is for Gender Spirit Week or Spirit Week, but I've never came across a Spirit Day that you wear a skirt, a male wears a skirt. I mean, this is grooming, and I wouldn't be so, I guess, alarmed, but like 3 out of 7 of her teachers, I mean, the principal hired a male, gay, black teacher for a 100% female dance program. She's had her science teacher ask what her pronouns are. So it's all the stuff that inclusiveness, I guess you guys call it, that you're trying to put in our schools, which is a distraction from academics. So the reasons I'm asking for her to be removed is a male teacher working with minors in this age group should not be wearing a skirt. This is a distraction from the learning process. And let me remind you that the picture of him in a skirt has surfaced across the student group chat, so it is in fact caused a distraction. Most importantly, my daughter has expressed that she does not feel safe in his classroom due to him talking about his personal life, saying such things like, "There's a hot guy at the local coffee shop," and seeing the image of him dressed as a female. I do not care about his personal sex life, but I do care about personal sex life being shared with my daughter and all other students in this class. As an adult, I am able to remove myself from the situation. She is not able to. I simply went to Miss Mondora and asked for her to be placed with another ELA teacher. That should have been respected, and it was not. So yes, it has gotten messy. But as a parent, if my child does not feel safe in the class, she needs to be moved. And that's it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicole Baldridge, And Ms. Baldridge will be followed by Shannon Knox. Good evening.
All right. Hello, my name is Nicole Baldridge. I've been here a couple of times and spoken a few. I have 3 amazing children, one of whom is a junior at Apex Friendship. She's really embarrassed, and she's going to be rezoned, but actually we're okay with it because I'm just going to drive her, and it's fine because of the stability plan. So she's going to stay at Apex Friendship, and it's going to be absolutely fine. And for our particular neighborhood, the plan is going to keep those students. I live in Salem Village. It's going to keep those students in line with the other students. When she was at Apex Middle School, half of her friends ended up at Apex Friendship, and half of them ended up at Apex High. So this is actually going to be future wonderful. Right now, it's a little tricky, and people are a little nervous, as happens when we have change, but it will be a wonderful thing. That's actually half of why I came here to talk. I did want to point out a couple of things. I was a teacher for 14 years before I changed careers. I changed careers because of pay. My students are amazing. The reason I came to school every day was because of them. They are incredible. I love and value each and every one of them, and I know that the teachers that are still at the schools that I left also feel the same way. They come to school because of the students. They continue to get up and go to school because of their students. It is about pay. That is the reason. And anything that you're hearing or other people may be telling you, it's pay. It's 100% pay. If they can't feed their kids, they can't clothe their kids, that's what it is. The reason longevity pay is gone in North Carolina schools is because of the GOP. It was removed by Senator Thom Tillis in 2014. So, in case anyone is unclear, the Republicans are the reason that teachers are leaving the classroom. I am allowed to get political because I'm a parent. Number 2, master's pay. Master's pay was dropped in 2013, also by our Republican-led, GOP-led Senate. We are the first state in the United States to drop master's pay. North Carolina is. Thank you, Wake County School Board. You reinstated master's pay. You kept many teachers in the classroom because of that decision. But that money has to come from somewhere, and it is not coming from our legislator. You are getting that money from the county commissions. And that money, and you know this, that money that you are using to keep teachers here is not then being used. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Baldridge. And again, just as a reminder, please respect the speakers at the podium. I know we have a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of people that are in disagreement with each other, but please do not make comments or noises directed at the speakers while they're speaking. So next we'll go to Shannon Knox, and then Shannon will be followed by Renee Seckel. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. That was a tough act to follow, but I'm going to try. Good evening, wonderful board members. Thank you for all that you do. I'm reading on behalf of a fellow public school parent who couldn't make it to speak today. She said, "Dearest board, my name is Lindsay Logan Allen. I am a wife to a beloved elementary school teacher here in Wake County, mother to 2 students that attend our school, and a national expert in equity and racial justice. I am a stroke survivor and a chronic illness warrior. I stand before you today to address 2 specific issues: a crisis threatening the very foundation of our public education system via HB 10, and 2, the constitutional principles that define our nation and the dangers of stigmatization and false accusations. Recently, baseless accusations of indoctrination have been hurled at our educators, including one targeted for wearing a tutu during Spirit Week. Let's be crystal clear. This witch hunt isn't just misguided, it's a dangerous assault on our First Amendment rights. Let us remember the words of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This fundamental right extends to all Americans, including our educators and students. By demanding that our schools adhere to a specific religious or moral worldview, these accusers are, in fact, advocating for the very indoctrination they claim to oppose. Our Constitution guarantees freedom of religious establishment, yet here we are, facing demands to conform our public taxpayer-funded schools to a specific religion and moral worldview. The irony is palpable. Those crying indoctrination are, in fact, the ones attempting to indoctrinate. Public schools are bastions of learning, growth, and inclusion, not pulpits for any single belief system. When we encourage exploration, curiosity, and diversity, we are preparing students for a complex, multicultural world and honoring our commitment to equity under Board Policy 1150. To those here tonight pushing a narrow, religiously based agenda, true liberty includes freedom from religious coercion. Your insistence on a Christian morale-based lifestyle in public schools isn't protecting liberty, it's trampling it. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the misuse of public funds. I'm here to support of the veto of HB 10. Funneling taxpayer dollars into vouchers and private schools is a direct attack on equity. These institutions often cater to the elite with zero accountability and student bodies that look nothing like our diverse community. When charter schools create policies that require parent volunteers, participation in paid activities, and mandatory carpools, they're not offering choice. They're creating barriers that widen the equity gap across racial, socioeconomic, and religious groups. This is direct opposition of Board Policy 1150 and the 2020 Wake County Reorganizing Racial Discrimination as a Public Health Crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Renee Seckel, and Renee will be followed by Weta Watson. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. What we've seen here tonight is community. A lot of us, unrelated to each other, saw that News and Observer article and were shocked and appalled at the attack on one of our school teachers, on our community. And so there are people in this room I've never seen before, I might never see again, I've never heard from before, there are people I have met before, but the point is our community came together to protect its own. Wake County is a community, Cary is a community. I shouldn't say that because there's all sorts of towns represented here. But the point is, that community is rooted in our public school system because our public schools is where kids come together. It's where families enjoy science night and international night, where they learn about the languages and the countries that all their classmates come from. It's where kids come to book fair and we don't ask them, hey honey, who'd your daddy vote for? Before we send them a book or give them a recommendation. And we don't say, oh, sweetheart, where do you go to church? Do you go to church? What do you believe? That's not a thing we do. We come together in our communities. We don't dox people. We don't say nasty things. We come together and we support each other in our communities. Ms. Johnson-Hostler, I appreciated what you said today about not letting people get on your last nerve. But I will say that doesn't mean that when people act in an antisocial manner, when they attack our communities, that we don't point it out and call it out. Whether it be a parent lying about teachers or looking for something to be angry about, or an elected official, Dr. Ng, spreading lies about our federal government's response to Western North Carolina, when you must know, you have to know that our brave, patriotic soldiers are out there in Western North Carolina being threatened with violence based on lies like the one you spread tonight. That's antisocial behavior, and you should be ashamed. Anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
All right, our next speaker is Weta Watson, will be followed by Marie Dexter.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and the board members for allowing me to speak tonight. For background, I'm Weta Watson, a parent, a former teacher, former community health educator, former state education consultant for Alabama and North Carolina, former member of the New Hope Presbyterian Youth Council Advisory Committee. So I've got a deep background in education and working with youth. But before beginning, I want to read this following statement. with something that Mr. Haggerty started with. The Wake County Board of Education meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying on official business of the school system. Tonight, I'm speaking for a great group of parents who attend and follow school board meetings year-round, not just during election season. They come to support local issues like the need for more bus drivers, broken HVAC systems, attendance zones, and the lack of equity across the schools in the district. They come to share concerns about the need for funding for school counselors, for nurses, for other mental health support systems. They come seeking support for their children who have been othered by laws such as the Parents' Bill of Rights and by speakers during these meetings. They are also engaged in activities in their local schools, many serving with PTAs and the school PTA and their district PTAs, and some are also teachers. Many work and struggle getting their children home and settled so they can attend these meetings. Not much time to do that if you work till 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't live nearby. But we also have parents who watch from home. They watch the videotapes. They watch the committee meetings. They don't just watch these meetings. They know the agenda. They also know what the plans are for this meeting. They advocate for full funding of public school budget in the General Assembly. They are active in community activities that support Wake County Public Schools, and when they show up to speak here, they speak about personal, local issues. Compare this to others who use this time to advocate for issues that are nationally driven and have little connection to the parents and citizens of Wake County. It's not uncommon that I find clips of their performances at these meetings on the YouTube channel. I even found one on a Michigan channel from this meeting. So here's my ask. I would like to see parents and citizens who are engaged in our local schools, those who show up at these meetings on work days in their schools and whatever else, to have a way to be heard with less attention to those who come with a desire for free publicity and a national agenda.
All right, thank you, Ms. Watson. Our next speaker is Marie Dexter, who will be followed by Julie Page. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Marie Dexter. I am president of Wake County PTA Council this year, and I want to take a moment to highlight the power of a parent-teacher association, or PTA. Many view the PTA as a fundraising organization or the folks that run the school book fair. And while it is true that PTA activities include fundraising, the PTA's true purpose is to advocate and create positive change in our education system. The PTA brings together families, educators, and community members to work collaboratively in support of our children. Research shows that when parents are engaged in their children's education, students perform better academically, exhibit improved behavior, and have higher education rates. Currently in Wake County, we have schools with strong, thriving PTAs raising thousands of dollars a year and having strong advocates, as I think you've heard tonight. We also have schools with no PTAs. In schools with active PTAs, we see greater parental involvement, increased volunteerism, and enhanced student programs, all of which enrich our educational experience. A strong PTA cultivates a culture of advocacy and support, ensuring that all voices are heard. It serves as a bridge between families and schools, fostering trust and collaboration. This collaboration not only strengthens the school community, but also creates a supportive environment where all our students can thrive. As we evaluate the equity across our schools in Wake County, it is important that we include PTAs in that discussion. The Wake County PTA Council and NCPTA want to create a PTA at every Wake County school, but to do that, we need the board support and we need community support. Together, we can create a robust network that champions our students, enhances their educational journey, and ultimately prepares them for a successful future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dexter. Next, we'll hear from Julie Page, followed by Becky Lou Hobbs.
Hi. I want to address the issue at Martin Middle. To be clear, the problem is much less about the fact that a male teacher is wearing a skirt on Spirit Day, and much more about the fact that the teacher is discussing his personal life and love interests to 11 to 13-year-old kids. I need you guys to understand the difference, okay? There is never a time or a place in a classroom for that type of behavior. He should leave his sexual desires and bedroom habits at home where they belong. Children should not know about a teacher's religion, politics, or sexuality. School is a place to learn about reading, writing, and math. They should be neutral and safe spaces for all students. Teachers must uphold these principles. To that point, if a student says that she feels unsafe for these reasons, then the school must listen to her. Empathy, right? The school cannot just ignore that or even disagree. Her perception is her reality. Empathy. Just because the principal says that the teacher is safe doesn't mean that the child thinks that way herself. It's utterly ridiculous to dismiss this student's feelings. Students should come first, always, over a teacher or a principal's feelings. This principal should be reprimanded for her failure to do her job in protecting her students. I want justice for this student. Move her to a different teacher for this particular class. She's an excellent student with high academic grades. She's serious about her studies. She deserves to learn in an environment that she feels safe and respected in, one where she is not made to listen to a grown man's sexual ambitions. Why is that so hard to understand? Why does the school system feel compelled to discuss and even celebrate sexual desires at all? Schools are for academic learning, not sexual fetishes. State law 115C-81-30 says you must teach that abstinence from sex before marriage is the standard for all school-age children, and that mutually faithful, monogamous, heterosexual marriage is the best way to avoid sexually transmitted diseases. Laugh. It is not funny. It is the law. Anything other than that should not be allowed in our public schools, especially by teachers. These students are at a very vulnerable age, and yet they are expected to listen and trust their teachers. The confusion is astounding here. We want justice, do the right thing, move her class. That's all that was ever asked. Put her in a different class with a different teacher. Empathy. Where is she valued? Where is she supported?
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Becky Lou Hobbs, who will be followed by Meg Gandolf. And Ms. Lou Hobbs, before you speak, let me just make one more plea. Please, y'all, do not make comments or noises or editorial grunts while the speakers at the podium are speaking. I know there may be many you agree with, many you disagree with, but please show everybody the respect for getting up here in front of a bunch of people they don't know, being live streamed, opening themselves up to criticism. Just please be respectful and give them their 3 minutes without interruption. All right? Thank you.
My name is Becky Lou Hobbs. You guys know me. Mom to 3 amazing kids. I have students in the Wake County Public System since 2012. As you know, I'm the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty in Wake County. Tonight, it was said that students should feel safe expressing their feelings. Well, does that mean for all kids? We have a child who does not feel safe with her teacher. Imagine your child comes home and says, "Mommy, this person was talking to me about his relationships and how people were hot." I would be wanting to know who that is. That's sexual harassment. That has no place in a classroom. Not a single comment. And if you think we have a problem with people who are gay or lesbian, I don't. My kids have had teachers that are gay, and they were fantastic teachers. You know why? Because they spent time on teaching instead of talking about their lifestyle choices to children in their classroom. Now, the other thing that was talked about tonight is Moms for Liberty. But one of the rules of the board is not to address members of the audience. Yet, you allowed a member of the board to be looking directly at me, to address me specifically, and did not stop it. No. And now to address your comments, Mr. Hershey, about Moms for Liberty. And you called us a hate group. You called us extremists. And many of the nut jobs over here probably agree with you. I am an extremist. I'm extremely unhappy with how poorly this system has educated my children. I'm extremely unhappy that 4 out of 10 kids cannot read on grade level. How 6 out of 10 children cannot do Math 1. Don't you look away, Mr. Swanson. And see, that's what he does. He goes up there and takes pictures of people and then posts them online. And then I don't get my public records request in a timely manner with that information. So who is the bully? Who is the hate group? We are just parents wanting our children to get a proper education. And I didn't want to have one of my children leave the public school system. I wanted them to stay. But you left me no choice because all you talk about in middle school is sexual orientation and not teaching them how to learn, not teaching them how to read, not teaching them math. You are a failure.
All right, our next speaker is Meg Gandolf.
Excuse me, Board Chair.
Mr.
Can we just
Hershey.
remind members, I don't care what they say about me, but just remind them to not refer to other members and insult other members of the audience, please, as part of our decorum. Thank you.
So, Mr. Hershey, I appreciate the sentiment. Please understand that keeping order and decorum in these meetings is very difficult. And I have just so everyone knows, I am listening specifically for references to individuals called out by name. If we want to call out speakers for criticizing groups collectively, there's been a lot of criticism of a lot of different groups, all right? And I think that's, it may not be the most civil, it may not be the best decorum, but I think that's permitted. So, I understand the discomfort and I appreciate where you're coming from, but, members that disagree are going to say things about each other collectively and as groups. Again, where I'm drawing the line is behavior we've seen before that we've recognized as inappropriate, where a speaker or people in the audience specifically call out another individual by name, by turning and pointing at them, by specifically singling them out. I know that won't make everyone happy. I have to have one standard that I apply equally, and right now that's the standard that I'm applying. So, I really can't keep asking everybody, not to interrupt speakers. I don't want to, remove anybody's access to these meetings. I just, want to make sure that we can conduct our business, the business of the school board, in an orderly fashion and get through it. So with that, we have about 6 more speakers. It has been a long night, but speakers number 27 and 28 deserve just as much respect and just as much as attention as speakers numbers 1 and 2. So if we can, let's all pull together and then hear from our final speakers. The next speaker is Meg Gandolf, who will be followed by Amanda Clerkin. Is Meg Gandolf still here? All right. With if Meg Gandolf is in the building and has stepped out and returns, we can add her to the end of the list, but we are going to proceed. So the next speaker will be Amanda Clerkin, who will be followed by Kristen Mooney. Is Amanda here? Amanda Clerkin. All right. Thank you. The next speaker on the list is Kristen Mooney, who will be followed by Nancy Haywood. No? All right. Nancy Haywood is calling an audible and declining. So then after Miss Mooney, we would have Eddie, oh gosh, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, Sispersky? Okay, Edie Sispersky. I apologize, Edie. Thank you. All right. Welcome.
Hello, Board of Education. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. So I wanted to speak with you all about HB 10, and I promise I'm going to get there, but that's actually the end of my story, so I'll backtrack. I am the vice president of the PTA at Morrisville Elementary School. Very happy to work under Mr. Swanson. I'll see you Thursday. But I wanted to say that this story starts with our outdated PTA website that still called for a special education inclusion committee. As we know, sometimes these PTAs, there's only 5 people that do all the things. So even though I had volunteered for that, it was still up that we needed that role filled. Due to that, we actually managed to rebuild our entire parent support group. I'm proud to say that I was able to pass that on to two wonderful SEIC members, and we also have 2 advocacy chairs. And we have an amazing parent group support chat. All of these parents, for the most part, their children are in the AU EBS classrooms. My child, while on an IEP, is in a mainstream classroom. Part of the reason we've been brought together is by these dreaded school assignments. I will say that this is a double-edged sword. I thought that there was 7 schools in Wake County that had an AU EBS classroom, and today I was told that there were 3. The double-edged sword here is that one of the parents who has to commute over a half hour to Morrisville Elementary, that the program has been wonderful for her kids, and they're thriving. This group has created play dates within themselves. We've made an inclusive space where we feel free to talk about certain issues and aspects of, other agendas and the political thing, of course. One of the biggest things that we're proud of is that we also arranged for a fence to be put up to prevent children that tend to elope. Now the PTA is paying for it. And a lot of us are grateful that our PTA can, but we don't feel that we should. And that's where HB 10 comes into play. When you're going to funnel out $248 million, North Carolina spends approximately $5,000 less per student than any other state in the nation. We're already underfunded. And I wonder if certain groups get put into, that's it. Thank you.
All right. So I believe our next speaker then is Edie Sispersky. And again, I do apologize.
I went by Miss Ski when I taught school.
Okay.
The name's just too difficult to comprehend.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that.
And I want to thank all y'all for your service. It's very tiresome, I can see, just being here tonight. So I thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Edie Sispersky, and I'm a longtime resident of Wake County. I worked for Wake County Public School System for years. I raised 4 children in Wake County Public School System, and I have 6 precious grandchildren, like your grandma, sitting on my last nerve. I have 6 precious grandchildren in Wake County schools. I am concerned about the situation at Martin Middle School. I didn't come here with any group. I came here just totally on my own. I don't know anything but what I've heard and seen, so I'm just speaking to this. And if it's true or fictional, I don't know, so I'm just speaking to what I've seen and heard. I am concerned about the situation at Martin Middle School. I am concerned about the welfare of a young middle school child. That's what kept me up at night, thinking about this little girl. Because I have a granddaughter who's in middle school. And it's hard, to go to middle school. It's a whole new thing. And for a child to be going through this kind of stress concerns me. And I don't even know them. I don't know them at all. I am concerned about the welfare of a young middle school child who has been exposed and stressed. She's been stressed out unnecessarily by a male teacher dressed supposedly in a tutu. I saw the picture myself and was mortified. That apparel, I'm an old grandma now, remember this, but that apparel would also be inappropriate even for a female teacher, because to me it looked like a crinoline, which was something women used to wear as undergarments. I'm old, so I can speak to it. Then I was doubly shocked to hear that the school administrators would not permit the child to be put into another classroom. This, to me, is just wrong. It's just wrong. In my studies at NC State Graduate School of Education, many years back, I learned about the DSM-5, Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which lists gender dysphoria as a mental disorder. Why would WCPSS allow someone who is unsure of his own gender be a teacher over highly susceptible middle school children? This is highly offensive to me and many other taxpayers in Wake County. Finally, I leave, and this is what I want to leave here with, an appeal for the young person to be allowed to study literature in a classroom by a teacher with a passion for English and not an LGBT agenda social activist. Middle school years are stressful enough without a teacher trying to pass on his own dysfunction to our young people. I hold the school administrators and the school board responsible for this abnormal and frightening school experience for this young person, the family, and frankly, many other citizens appalled by this incident at Martin Middle School.
Sorry, Mrs. Fisher, that is the conclusion of your time. Thank you. Our next speaker and our final speaker of the evening is Ella Fisher. Is Ella Fisher here? Thank you. Ms. Fisher, you do win our Patience Award.
Hi, I'm Ella. I had a whole speech planned out, but everyone has expressed it better than I have, and I'd kind of be beating a dead horse. So on a sort of anticlimactic note, I would like to say, as a former Martin student, that I am proud of the Martin teacher and of the administration and principal for standing behind him. Thank you for hearing all of our concerns, and yeah. Go Mustangs.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So that does conclude our public comment period. We still have a few items remaining for our closed session agenda. Ms. Mahaffey, did you have a motion?
Chair Hagerty, I'd like to make a motion to return to closed session for reasons stated on the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Mahaffey and a second from Mr. Swanson. All in favor of returning to closed session for the statutory reasons previously cited, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We will be in recess for about 5 minutes, and then we will resume in closed session.